guys. So today I am so excited to be walking you guys through today's webinar on how influencers fit into your marketing strategy. By the end of this webinar, you'll learn the ROI of influencer marketing, how influencer marketing can really fit into your own marketing strategy, the pros and cons of paid and unpaid partnerships, and how to find budget for those influencer partnerships. So before we hop in, I do have to share just a little bit about me so you know who I am. I am an influencer marketing expert and educator, and I also am a creator myself. So I work with multiple brands and educate high profile ones on how to run effective influencer marketing campaigns. I'm also a longtime partner of Atlanta Apparel, so I'm so excited to be able to be here for my second webinar with you guys. I also run the award-winning lifestyle blog, Simply Sabrina, which nurtures a community of over 500,000 readers and followers through multiple social media sites, and also the blog itself. I have a number of awards to my name, and they continue to grow. I am so excited to have the opportunity to share what I've learned through my journey as a creator, and then also in my professional career, working on brand work and product work for agencies, startups, and also corporate brands. So first, let's get into the benefits of influencer marketing. So right off the bat, we have to talk about ROI. And you know this as your return on investment. So NeoReach actually did this study, and it's one of the most recent ones. So we're at, this is made for 2020, and this number continues to change. So it's important to keep a pulse on it. But basically, NeoReach calculated that for every $1 that's spent on influencer marketing, you're going to reach over 5 times the same amount of interactions that would be spent on those marketing dollars if you just spent them on paid advertising. And we're going to get into that just a little bit more. But it's important to know that influencer marketing does have an awesome return on investment, but it's when it's done properly. And that's kind of where I come in. So it's important for you to remember that traditional marketing, as always, can be effective, but generally that's what is talking at people. You want to make sure that you're part of that conversation. So investing in content marketing is a way for you to make sure that you are speaking with your consumer, you're having those conversations with them, and you're really building that brand affinity. So if you're sold and that's why you're here and you know influencer marketing is important, and that's why you want to learn how to make it fit for you, let's do this. All right, so I'm gonna jump us back a little bit. If you, learned anything about Marketing 101 in school or in business school or in college, this next slide is something you're gonna be really familiar with. So this is the marketing funnel. It is a very, very old kind of diagram that shows how consumers journey through what they call the marketing funnel. So when they first kind of interact with your brand to when they become these like loyal brand advocates. And I want to take a couple of minutes and really walk you guys through it because it's important for you to know point blank for marketing strategy, but then also for how influencer marketing can kind of play a role in that. So in the beginning, you have this like very high level where your person, potential customer is going to learn about your brand. So they're going to generate awareness. They might be a viewer to maybe your social media profiles. Maybe they were a visitor to your website. Maybe they heard about you through a friend, but they're basically the process and the goal of it is to make them aware that you exist as a brand. Now from there, they're going to progress. A smaller amount of people are going to really focus on engagement. So maybe they might like one of your posts. Maybe they'll decide to follow you. Maybe they will tell a friend about you. Maybe they'll ask somebody that they trust, confidant, a friend, a relative, maybe a social media influencer. They'll find somebody and they're going to start engaging with your brand. Now they're going to consider it. So somebody says, yeah, I've heard of them, heard they were really great, don't know too much about them, learning more about them. And this is when that person turns into someone who is, just visiting to a potential prospect or a lead for you. So as you can tell, we've kind of narrowed the funnels. We had a lot of people in the beginning, narrowing it down to people who are actually really serious about it. Now we're getting even smaller, right? So the goal of the middle of the funnel is really to publish and distribute content that make people want to interact with your brand, learn more about your brand, and to become those potential prospects or leads for you. All right, we reeled them in. They know you, they feel comfortable with you, they feel safe about you, they're ready to purchase. So again, our funnel got more narrow. Now this person is a customer and we've driven them to a sale or to a conversion. But what happens after that? So after that, you want to make sure that this person ideally is a loyal brand advocate. So now not only are they going to shop more from you, but they're going to tell their friends about you. They're going to tell their family members about you. Maybe they'll post a picture of what they got from you. And then, you create that ecosystem for your potential customer to really go from the top of the funnel to the bottom of the funnel. All right, now that we've walked through that and we're all on the same page, I want to talk a little bit about where influencer marketing fits in. As you can tell by that huge red star, influencer marketing is a top of the funnel experience. And I want to caveat this next slide by saying that there's always exceptions to the rule, and this is not a hard and fast rule. But influencer marketing is not designed for direct sales and conversion. It is a top of the funnel experience. Now, that doesn't mean that it's not important. That doesn't mean that influencers can't drive sales, because they absolutely can. And certain influencers are great at that. Other influencers are more top of the funnel. Some may even be middle of the funnel. Maybe they're great at engagement. Maybe they can really get people to follow your brand, but that doesn't necessarily always lead to those conversions. And there's always going to be some kind of drop off when you try to track those conversions. So overall, I want you to kind of change your mindset that, hey, if I'm going to work with an influencer, I'm going to get a ton of sales. Because what happens is that we want, as a brand, to be able to move consumers further along the journey. And because that's the goal, I want to get into this next part that's also going to remind you a little bit of Marketing 101. So if you're familiar with any type of basis of marketing, you'll know about the rule of seven. So the rule of seven states that a prospect needs to hear, see, or be exposed to a marketing message at least 7 times before they'll take the action to actually purchase a product or service. It's funny because it actually came from some research that was done in the 1930s, where movie studio bosses decided, they did a lot of research, and they figured out that people needed to see advertising for a movie at least 7 times before they actually wanted to go and see it. Now, this is so long ago. We're looking at, decades ago at this point, but the rule of seven still counts, right? It still matters that, a prospect needs to touch your brand at least 7 times in order for them to feel like they trust you, they feel connected to you in order to make a purchase. Now, that's an average. It could be more, it could be less. And here's where influencer marketing really takes the cake. Not all touch points are created the same, right? If someone is going to see a banner ad 7 times, that is not the same as a trusted influencer that is going to tell the story of a brand 7 times. And it's not to say that it always needs to come from an influencer or it always needs to come from a paid ad. It's just to say that not all of them are created evenly. So if you are able to make emotional connections, those are much stronger, and will be able to communicate with the audience a lot better and be more compelling when they're coming from a trusted source versus something like a banner ad on a website. That's why influencer marketing is just so effective. Influencer marketing works because you're using a trusted source. You're building on that genuine connection that they have with their audience that they've curated over time. And you're really piggybacking off of that to make sure that you've created an emotional story with your brand tying to a trusted and genuine source. Okay, so now that we've covered that part and where influencer marketing really fits into your larger strategy, I want to talk a little bit about the value of influencer marketing. So businesses can use influencer marketing in a number of ways, and here are some of the ones. This came out of a report from Collectively, which is an influencer marketing agency, and it is for 2020, so these are all very new numbers. You have 77% of marketers that are using it to just drive engagement. That's what they want. 56% of them are using it to drive traffic to their websites, which is, I think, one of the most effective forms. And for all my clients, I always say that if you get somebody to your website and you have those cookies enabled where you can follow that particular customer on their online journey. So, if you've ever gone to a website and you've seen something that maybe it was like a sofa from Macy's. And then all of a sudden your ads on Facebook are for sofas on Macy's. And then it's in your email and then it's on your web. Like you start seeing it. And that's because they have those cookies enabled. So you want to make sure that you're doing that for your website so that you can follow the consumer's trajectory in order to continue to give them that first, second, third, seventh exposure to your brand. So if you can use influencer marketing to get people to your website, that's awesome. That's a huge win for you. All right, moving on. 89% are using it to create authentic content around your brand. And when we talk a little bit more about, paid versus unpaid, I really want to touch back on this number because this is so important. And then lastly, you have younger audiences that really detest traditional ads. They are not sitting through commercial breaks. They're not paying attention to banner ads. They have ad blockers on. These are the people that you're going to reach with influencer marketing. Now, this number, this chart actually comes from Collectively, but it's talking about how marketers view their investments. And I want to make sure that you guys know that this is a very standard procedure. So awareness and buzz is at 90%. So we're looking at 90% of people understanding that awareness is number one. And I want you guys to take a look at where the e-commerce strategy is. That's at 24%. So marketers know that awareness and content creation and social engagement strategy is so important. And that's where they're really viewing their investment over something like driving sales and revenue. That's why I think the slide in this graph is just so important for us to really understand. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about paid partnerships. I know for a lot of people, marketing dollars are tight. We are in a tough situation right now, and it's hard to find those dollars. So where are you going to find them? Look, compensation doesn't always have to be monetary, and I'm going to go ahead and say that. This is also a big chapter in my course. We talk about all of the different ways that you can compensate your influencer partners that are non-monetary. But I still think that there's value in paid partnerships, and I'll tell you why. So off the bat, I personally interviewed 100 different influencers and talked to them specifically about partnering with small businesses and whether or not they would consider unpaid partnerships. 98% of people said yes, depending on the brand, the product, and the deliverables. Now, there's a lot of different ways that you can compensate influencers. And like I said, there's a whole chapter on this in my course, but here's 3 off the bat. If you have a large email list, you can include them as like a guest editor, right? Let me say this off the bat. Exposure does not pay bills. Influencers are also small businesses, and the idea that if you repost somebody's picture to your Instagram and that is going to bring them tons of followers, it's not effective. Not anymore, at least not after 2020. That could have been effective in 2010. It very well could have. It's just not there anymore. And this is off of research. This is off of experience. I mean, I've been reposted by brands with over 1 million followers and maybe saw 1 or 2 people from that. It's just not effective. And it's not to say that, you as a brand shouldn't do it. You absolutely should do it, but that's not compensation. So just, as an inside tip, now you know. But giving those featured, spots. So you have a large email list, you're showing up in the inboxes of thousands of people. That's an opportunity. That could actually have somebody build an emotional connection that they would then want to see more from this influencer. If you have similar audiences, you can consider doing a giveaway on your own brand account, not on their brand account, but on your own brand account, where you ask people to follow the influencer in order for an entry for a giveaway. You could collaborate, you could do it together, but that's also a great way to actually give them some type of benefit. And then also non-monetary, right? It's all about the product, the deliverables, and the brand. You could offer an ongoing monthly gift card to an influencer saying, hey, if you have an event coming up, we'd love to dress you. It doesn't always have to be from a certain collection, whatever you like, whatever you want. You can share it anytime you come in and shop, just on your stories. That would be great. And then, build that long-term relationship that could maybe turn into a partnership long-term. Ultimately, it needs to be a mutually beneficial relationship. Like I said, free products do not pay bills. It doesn't pay it for you. And so you know that it's not going to pay it for an influencer. So just make sure that we're really respectful of when we work with influencers and their time. You know how hard it is to build an authentic and engaged following on social media. So imagine how hard these influencers work to do it for themselves. Now, long-term partnerships are best, right? So based on the rule of 7, it takes a potential customer 7 interactions with the brand to be driven to a point of purchase. Influencers can help with awareness and engagement and really make those long-term partnerships so that they can become brand ambassadors and advocates for your brand. And then you're piggybacking off of those genuine connections. Most of the social currency for online influencers is in the form of trust. And long-term partnerships are really speaking to that trust because it just shows how much an influencer is willing to invest in a brand. Now, it is important to discuss that long-term partnerships are genuinely always paid partnerships. And the reason why is because of exclusivity. So if you are let's say you are a car dealership, right? So you, there's so many cool cars that you have coming in and out. You have influencers who are talking about, look, if you want to buy a car, this is the place to go. It's local. Let's say I'm in, Birmingham, Alabama. This is the best spot in Birmingham, Alabama. Now, if that influencer is endorsing your brand, and let's say they're doing it over a long period of time, they are now giving up the opportunity to talk about any other car dealerships for that amount of time. Now, car dealerships may be a one-off experience, but think about it with a makeup brand, a clothing brand, a hair brand, right? Let's talk about an expensive hair tool. Maybe you're talking about like the T3, right? So it's a curling iron that's about $500. Now, people aren't going to buy multiple curling irons in a short amount of time. So if you are endorsing one brand, you're losing the opportunity to genuinely and with trust recommend multiple brands to your audience, especially if you're doing it over a long period of time. That's why those paid partnerships are so important. And you can usually get a discount if you work out a paid partnership with an influencer. Okay, moving on. We know it's important. We know what our ROI is. We know that we need to and we should try to make opportunities paid when possible. But where does the budget come from? And this is kind of the core of what I wanted to talk about. So how do we make influencer marketing fit into your marketing strategy? How do we make it fit into your budget? Where are you going to get the money from? This is what we're about to talk about. So first, I wanted to show you a little bit about influencer marketing global spend. As you can tell, influencer marketing is a very, very lucrative industry because of that ROI, right? So brands are spending money on social media marketing. They're spending money on SEO. They're spending money in so many other forms of marketing. But influencer marketing is continuing to show that ROI, and that's why that budget keeps going up. So just know that there are a ton of influencers, but less and less people are willing to work for free. And that's why we need to make sure that we figure out how to make budgets happen. So your TLDR, your too long didn't read, budgets are not going to appear and you have to make it happen. There will literally never be a time where you wake up and say, you know what? I have $10,000 to spend on influencer marketing. That's just not going to happen. So what we have to do is we have to consider that we're going to reallocate funds. Now I want you to think about where you spend your money when it comes to your marketing dollars, right? Where do you spend your money when it comes to content marketing? Maybe you're doing it for creating content. Maybe you're hiring a photographer. Maybe you're getting models. Maybe you have a stylist, a photo stylist to, make sure that all of your pictures look a certain way. Maybe you have a clothing stylist. You have hair and makeup, location, ad spend. All of those things, right? Think about what it takes for you to put on a shoot. And then if you have a one-stop shop for an influencer that is going to do all of these things for you, and then in addition to that, you can piggyback off of their trust, their genuine connection, and the marketing that you're putting with them, that is where that return on investment goes. Remember that 5.2 times? That's what those dollars represent. You can bundle what you would spend on a shoot for all of these things, right? plus, so let's say you created the content, right? So you hired all these people, you had the shoot, you did it, you have the pictures, wonderful. What are you going to do? Well, I'm going to run a paid ad on Instagram or on Facebook, right? I'm going to put in my geolocation and I'm going to put dollars behind it, maximum of $1,000 a day for a month, right? Whatever it is. And then you're going to run those ads. Now, let's look at what those dollars look like. Now, remember, 5.2 times the amount per dollar spent on paid marketing. So not only have you spent all that money creating the content, but now you're going to put it on a platform like Facebook, Instagram. Where else do you run ads, right? Content ads, Google ads, SEO, direct mail. Now, if you take money out of those budgets, don't eliminate it, just shift a little bit of money out of those budgets and try it with influencer marketing, you can see that 5.2 times the return of investment because you were already going to spend money on running the ad, right? So now you have somebody who has created the content for you. You've run the ad, which is what you would have spent to reach that person's audience anyways, right? Let's make sure that they fit your demographic, your location, your psychographics. Let's make sure that this person has an audience. If you're a local boutique, let's say you're in Birmingham, let's make sure that these people have a lot of audience in Birmingham. If you're an online shop, make sure, and you only ship to the US, make sure that this person has a very large US presence. Making sure that this person matches what you would have put into those demographics to run those paid ads on other sites. Okay, so we have the content, we're gonna run the ad. Now we're tapping into this person's personal following. We're tapping into their trust, their likeness, their genuine appreciation with their brand, tapping into people who know, like, and trust them. There's a dollar amount for that. If you bundle those three numbers, that's how you'll know how much you should spend. And I go into this in depth in my course. I mean, we have examples, we do money examples, how much to spend, how to do it. And I'm also happy to do one-on-one consultations. That's something that is so important for you to understand. But that's basically what it is, right? You have how much the content costs to create, how much you would have spent on marketing, and then on top of that, the trust and likeness. Once you put those three together, that's your budget. Now, it is getting more and more common for brands to ask influencers to create content that they are then not posting on their own channels, or that they then have the rights to repost on their own channels. So let's say an influencer has created content for you and you've paid for that content. Working into your contract, and again, this needs to be specified in your contract in advance, that you are owning the rights to that image. Now, it's important to note that if a person works with a photographer, they need to have or purchase the rights to those photos in order to resell them to you. So if a professional photographer is used, you need to make sure that in your contracts, you are specifically asking for the rights to those images. And rights to images do cost more, right? So maybe you're allowed to repost it with credit. But if you want that picture to show up on a paid ad on Facebook, you need to make sure that that's in your contract. So let's say that you've done that. 89% of marketers are planning to reuse influencer content across the online marketplace. That is where your return on investment goes. Remember we talked about an influencer driving to the website and then you're following that person's consumer journey in order to purchase? That's where it's so important. All right. So if you're sold and you feel confident and you want to reach out to influencers, I do have a couple of tips for you. So if you reach out to influencers, you want to make sure that whether it's monetary or a long-term partnership, a product sample, whatever it is, that it is mutually beneficial. You also want to make sure that you're reaching out to them professionally. Remember, they are a small business as you are too. And you always want to make sure that you are respecting their time and professionalism. Those are the kind of people you want to work with anyways. So if you're nervous about how to reach out to somebody on email, and I always recommend email, if you're DMing somebody, you want to make sure that you ask them for their email because all professional communication should be done over email. I do have some email templates for you. There are 5 different templates, whether you're looking for a gifting campaign, an unpaid partnership, paid for content creation, paid for sponsored content, or just a generic outreach, just go to this bit.ly link and you can download those 5 free templates. This is exclusively for you guys, but I've gone ahead and created those for you because I know that initial outreach can be a little bit tough. All right, so if you feel good and confident about this, I encourage you to go forth and start exploring influencer partnerships for your business. Again, this is the tools and resources for those email outreach templates. That's bit.ly/TIM, that's the influencer marketer email. And then here are some of the services that I offer. I do trainings and workshops. I also do keynote speaking, and then any type of consulting services. So if you're interested, please feel free to reach out, and here's how you can get in touch with me. You can find me on Instagram at Sabrina Molu. My website is theinfluencermarketer.com. LinkedIn is Sabrina Molu, and on Twitter, it's also Sabrina Molu. Thank you guys so much for being with me. I love my time that I spend with the Atlanta Apparel community. So if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. We usually do these webinars, and I also do lives on the Atlanta Apparel account often. So we're always taking your questions. If you have any suggestions for future webinars, please feel free to reach out.